Hey, welcome to Lost in Translation, the art of communication with me. I'm Rinat, Halon. I've been a professional photographer, photographing internationally for the past 20 years and picked up a couple tips over the years that I want to share with you today. So I hope you're gonna get something out of this, and just kind of stay tuned, listen in, and we're going to move forward. We got 10 tips to cover today, so we're going to get started. So today I want to talk about 10 communication tips that would help you make sure that you and your client and your potential client are on the same page, conveying why should they choose you. So many photographers are out there. Avoiding any of the pitfalls of photography where at the end of the day when you deliver the product you realize they were expecting something else, expectations did not match. So these are just a couple of examples, and we're just gonna go ahead and dive right into the first tip I got for you today. Tip number 1. First rule of love is to listen, right? I mean, we've heard this all before. We all know this. But when I encounter a new client or a potential client, or somebody reaches out to me, approaches me wanting to hire me for my photography services, I get really, really quiet. Now, I do this very purposefully. I do this very purposefully. I do this because most people don't know exactly what they want. They're not sure exactly what I can deliver. And I want to pull out of them as much information as possible before I give them any answers. Because if I jump with answers down their throat, it might not be the product they're looking for. I really need to hear what they want. I mean, it can be as simple as somebody reaching out to me because they want a headshot, and we keep talking and it turns out that they need a whole brand strategy, right? Or a mother who wants, I just want a couple shots of my kids, but if I really listen, I know and I understand she's looking for wall portraits, and she actually has a whole family, and she has another child, the firstborn, that she took to a different photographer, and she's not happy with the results. So the first child does not have any portraits on the walls. And these are just a couple of examples. So I get really, really quiet. Now this is uncomfortable quietness. It is considered uncomfortable quietness. So you got to get really comfortable in the uncomfortable quietness. Just let it be. Let it be, because once you don't help the client figure out what they want, they will. They're going to find the words, they're going to kind of pull it out, and at the end, you're basically just reflecting back to them what they said to you, which is great communication. So first rule of love is to listen. So, they always say we got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Right there. Sit there and listen. It's okay. It's a very good thing, actually. And they're going to thank you at the end. It might be a little uncomfortable during, but they will thank you at the end for listening. And we're moving on to tip number 2. Tip number 2, ask questions. So people love talking about themselves. I mean, they really do. You start them going, you get them going, and they love it. They can just talk about themselves all day, right? We all can. So this is great for you. This is great news for you, because ask questions. Ask questions and find out more information. For example, ask if there's anything they don't like about their smiles. Ask about the last 10 photos that they uploaded to Facebook. Which ones do they like? Which ones do they not like of themselves? Why do they like that one? Why do they not like the other one? So you can kind of understand some people are really apprehensive about a certain side of their face. They don't like, they don't like their left side photographed for some reason. They only like pictures taken of the right side of their face. So Once you understand that and you only take pictures of the right side of their face, guess what? You have a pretty good chance that they're going to like what they see, right? At least it gives you an opening. It gives you, first of all, they understand that you're listening. They understand that you're in tune with what they want, and that's really important. You can educate them from there and give them other options on, maybe the left side could look good in this light or that light, but definitely understand first where is their comfort level in front of a camera. Really, really important. Ask questions. And we are on tip number 3, explain why you. In this world nowadays, there's so many photographers, and when someone reaches out to you to choose you as their photographer, you have a very, very short window of opportunity to explain to them why they should choose you as their photographer. So 2 rules of thumb here I want you to remember. Number 1, don't try to be the cheapest photographer. Never, ever, ever separate yourself from the competition based on price. It doesn't work. It's a subject for a whole other webinar, but just don't do it. And rule number 2, never put down another photographer so you can look better, right? There's absolutely no need. Instead, sit down and make yourself a list of what separates you from the competition, what kind of, unique experience you have, what kind of education you have, and what is it that you've done that makes you the reason that they want to choose you to be their photographer. Who are you? Maybe it's something personal. I'll give you an example. I many times talk about the fact that I was in the Israeli military and I worked for the DEA. These 2 things show that, first of all, I'm reliable. Secondly, I know how not to chat. I mean, many people don't like that the photographer gossips about them outside of the photo session, right? So kind of keep their privacy. That's really important. And the third is I know how to take charge, right? So if it's a 36-person bridal party, I can organize that mess and make it into a great, fun photo shoot. So share what it is that separates you from the competition. Have it clear and concise in points, and win them over. Just win them over by being you, your experience, your uniqueness, why they should be your client. Okay, tip number 4, be on the same page. You and your client have to be on the same page, and that's why I invest in the pre-session communication, because if everything is organized before the session just flows so neatly and easily. Just like anything else, planning makes perfect, so just gotta plan it out. What I do is I actually invest the time in a pre-session phone meeting with my client. First thing that I do is I created an online e-form, and I email that form to my clients. It's a questionnaire. It's got 1 million questions on it. Maybe not 1 million, but pretty close. And once they click submit and I get it, I set up a phone meeting for us, a 30-minute phone meeting. We go over the form. We make sure we're on the same page before this photo shoot. Where my studio is. How long is it going to take them to get to my studio from their place? What should they bring? What should they not bring? What about hair and makeup? Is there any specific shots that they envision that they want me to get? I want to know about that in advance. What happens with that? What happens with that is on the day of the photo shoot, like I said, we're all on the same page. And I get all the shots they're expecting and more, obviously. But if something did not get photographed, if something did not get captured, it's because of the fact that something happened. Something happened beyond our control, and we all know what happened. I mean, there isn't like, oh, I don't know why she never got this shot, right? No, we're all on the same page. We all know what's up. So, make sure you have clear communication with them before you even start the photo shoot. All right, tip number 5, learn to speak gibberish. So, when working with children, even more than adults, but I mean, it really goes for everyone, but specifically for children, You really need to know how to communicate with them to get what you want out of them, to get their personality to shine, right? I heard a photographer say many years ago, I think it was Rick Farrow. I'm going to credit him for that one. And it was so fun, by the way, to work with Rick many years later at Disney weddings. And I was like, oh my God, I so admire you. You taught me all the basics. So it's great to meet photographers that forever and ever you were following and admiring, and then you're working with them, right? It's wonderful. So I think it was Rick who said that a personality is the most important thing for a photographer, and if you don't have one, you better go buy one. So I completely agree. When it comes to children, it's really important that you get down to their level, that you can make a fool of yourself, whatever you need. And what I communicate on a family session, if I have young children, I say to the adults, okay, you all need to look over here right now before I take the picture, right? I set them up, I pose them, and I say, I need you all to look over here and smile to the camera. Ignore me, do not help me with the children. Because what happens is, I go ahead and have them look into the camera smiling, and now I'm entertaining the kids, right? I'm like, oh, making faces, the whole thing, right? And I'm getting the kid to smile, and it's a perfect shot, right? Otherwise, what happens normally is that if I don't say this, the parents try to help me, and then, great, I have a smiling child, and I have parents with their mouth hanging open, right? Like all kinds of weird faces, right? That we don't want. So, by the way, one of the hardest things to tell to a parent, they just cannot do it. It's so hard for them to let go when I say, don't help me. You're actually helping me by not helping me. Please don't help me. So it takes usually a couple shots before the parent is comfortable enough to let go and let me do my job. If for some reason I can't make the child smile, I do have, my next option is my magic ring, which this is my magic ring. It's just a cheap little ring, and I'm gonna find the name of it in a second, but it's just a cheap little ring that when you press it, see, it's like all magical and stuff. Kids love it. And this tip is from Bure Perry, so another awesome photographer that you want to listen to. But I pull out the ring and I say, who wants this magic ring? You can have it at the end of the session. You just gotta smile. So this works perfectly. A little bribe that doesn't involve, clothes getting dirty because of candy or chocolate or anything like this. And the other thing with kids is anything that you're giving a child as a bribe, just prepare it's going to end up in the shot for sure. So be okay with that. Whatever it is, you got to make sure you're okay with the fact that it's going to be in the picture. Sometimes, and this, I've been doing this 20 years, and children I've been photographing 20 years. I mean, my first official photography job in a studio, I was supposed to be trained. I came in, it was back in Ohio when I was in college, and I came in for my first day of training, and my trainer never made it. And there was a session ready to go outside with a baby, with a 1-year-old. One of my favorite pictures of all times. I actually still have it. I'll show you in a second. And yeah, I just clicked away and did my silly stuff, and it worked perfectly. So with that, what I'm saying is that I've been doing this for many years. If you have too many children involved, sometimes it's really good to get an assistant that can do the silly faces and everything while you're concentrating on photographing. Or if you just cannot do silly faces for the life of you, yes, get an assistant who can. I mean, it's priceless. So for years when I was photographing in the studio, I still remember kids, especially around the holiday season, parents or families would come in, and the kids would come in screaming and crying and miserable, and I realized that they had so much pressure on them by the parents to get great shots. So many times to this day, if I'm starting to photograph and it's a family and I'm working with just the children, and the children are acting up, they're being clingy or needy or whatever it is, I suggest to the parent to just leave the room. It's okay. When the parent leaves the room, really it works 100% of the time. When the parent leaves the room, the child all of a sudden becomes an adult. and all of a sudden I have clear communication. So in this case, I don't do the goofy faces. I actually just become very quiet, and I talk to them at eye level like an adult, just and they totally function like an adult. So yeah, you really have to be able to communicate with children in order to get their precious personality to shine. So that is tip number 5. And I'm gonna grab that picture that I'm telling you about, the very first picture I took of that cute baby many years ago when I was in college, and I'm also gonna get the name of these rings that Bure told me about, the magic rings. So I'll be right back. So these are the rings. I buy them on Amazon. They come in a pack, flashing jelly rings. That's what works for me. If you find something similar, that's great. Come in a pack of, I think, 20 are in here, and they're just wonderful, and they're great, affordable gifts for children who behave. So I was telling you about the first baby picture that I took. So this is it. This is it. This cute baby right here. I think we did pretty good for my first official, formal, getting paid for this gig, studio shot many years ago in college. It was adorable. Thank God for him. He cooperated. Tip number 6 is stay on time. So your time is precious, and so is your client's time, right? We're all kind of rushing around, trying to get things done. That's life, right? So you got to stay on time. It is your responsibility to stay on time. During a wedding, when I photograph, I use my shot list that I was telling you about in the previous tip. I use my shot list to make sure that I have all the formal pictures in there. We all know exactly which formal pictures we're taking immediately after the ceremony. And then what I do is I just go ahead and I can get these shots, the formal shots, in 10 minutes. And then guess what? I have another good 45 minutes with just the bride and groom to get their beautiful pictures around the venue, right? So everyone's happy. Mom and dad are happy because they got their formal pictures that they want. The bride and groom are thrilled because they get their beautiful pictures together. And actually the bridal party's really thrilled because now they can go drink, right? They're done and they can go have fun during the cocktail hour. So stay on time. Really important. And communicate beforehand to make sure that you stay on time. Again, once you set these expectations, once you know how many shots to take during a certain time, you got this. You will stay on time. I have many times where I have clients that send me a complete list of 30 formal pictures. That's fine, I can do it, but it will take a long time. It will take longer than normal. So if they're okay with that, that's great. But we discuss all this before the wedding. This does not happen on the moment of the wedding. It is all pre-planned, which helps stay on time. Tip number 7, create clear expectations. You got to create clear expectations. We live in such an instant world that people literally think that I'm taking the pictures and I can just send it to their phone, right? I mean, probably your clients too, right? So you got to create clear expectations of what your process is. Before I ever start a photography session, before I ever start a portrait session, a wedding, whichever one I'm working on, once they sign up, I go ahead and I send them a quick email that outlines the process of what's going to happen and when should they expect the pictures, when should they expect the proofs, when should they expect the final product, so they know, so they're not sitting there all antsy, 2 hours after you're done photographing them going, where's my pictures? And you're like, it's gonna take me a little bit, right? So create clear expectations. Tip number 8, have a real-time reality check. So everyone's a photographer today, right? I mean, everybody thinks they are. So what happens with my clients, many times they literally think that my job is done once I click. They think that's it. There's nothing before and there's nothing after. I'm not making fun of them here, and I'm not trying to, put them down. I'm just saying this is how it is, right? That's what they're used to. So we got to educate our clients. We have to educate our clients. So we end up having during the session real-time reality check expectations. So when I talk to a client and they just think that, in an hour I can take about 40 different poses, no, not even. I mean, just so they even understand where to start from, you got to explain to them that lighting takes time, that posing takes time, that you want to make sure that you get the shot and it's not just one click, and you don't do burst and hope something's going to work out, that there's a lot of thought and planning into a shot. And the actual click of the shutter, that split second, is like nothing. It's nothing. That's magic. You're not doing anything there. You're just clicking. The actual photograph that you're creating is everything that happens before and after that click, right? The click is nothing. So that's really, really, really important. I talk to clients many times. I have a portrait session scheduled with a girl outdoors, and mom's thinking we can go to 5 different locations, and she has 7 different clothing changes for her, and she wants one on a horse and one of her swimming, and I go, okay, that's great, you got all day. I mean, right? So we have to make sure that they understand and educate our clients on how long it actually takes us to get that shot. What makes us a professional photographer? Clear communication on that would first of all have them appreciate you and the money that they're spending on you, and also help them appreciate and understand that this is not an instant fix. This is art, and art takes time and investment, and art takes time and investment and patience. And you can't have it all. You gotta choose. You gotta choose. It's quality over quantity over here. So remember that one. That will really, really help you. This piece of communication will really, really help you on a photo shoot. So recently I wrote a book called What's Wrong with My Camera, and it's about how to photograph better with any camera. And the reason I'm telling you this today is because yesterday when I recorded this webinar with 10 tips on how to communicate better with your clients, apparently my camera stopped recording after tip 8. I think maybe I should read my own book. So side note, anyway, hence, new day, new environment here, and we're just gonna move on, and we're gonna go right into the next tip. Tip number 9. So, tip number 9 is create a drip campaign. How do you connect with a lead? How do you connect with a potential client that reaches out to you? What I decided to do was create drip campaigns, which is something you can create through an email service such as MailChimp. I personally use MadMimi. I love them. They're wonderful. But I know many people love MailChimp. So basically what a drip campaign is, it's basically several emails that are stacked at different dates. You basically send them out one after the other, with whatever intervals of time you decide on, to follow up with a client or a potential client. So for example, if I get an inquiry about portrait photography, I have a drip campaign for portrait photography, and I have 5 different emails, and I think it goes across about 2 months or so from the first email to the last email that they get. And it really helps me stay in touch with this client. It also communicates that I don't want to be overwhelming, I don't want to be superimposing. Sometimes a client contacts us and they're not ready to book. They just want to inquire, they kind of want to find out what's going on. So the first thing I do when a potential client contacts me is I go ahead and I give them a call, and I send them a personal email. And I say, if I can't get a hold of them, then I leave a message, and in the email I say, here's my calendar, let's go ahead and have a phone consultation and see if I can help you. The reason I do that is because I definitely want to talk to a potential client before we book. I don't book over email or over text. I like to talk with the potential client for several reasons. The first one being is the fact that this is an investment, and it's an investment of time and money, and I want them to understand that. So again, it's not just a quick fix, text me, I'll text you back, it's all said and done, which we're all used to in this day and age. It's more of a process, and it's more of an investment. So I want to make sure they understand that from the get-go, and I communicate it by having them understand that it's not going to be a texting relationship. I mean, later on when we actually get into the process, it's okay if there's a question here and there and we just want to text, that's fine. But the initial communication that sets the bar needs to be where you want to set the bar. So the other thing that this does is it weeds out people who are just, tire kicking, because if they're not serious, they're not going to bother with setting up a time to meet. So I know they're not serious. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I am the right photographer for them and that they are the right client for me, right? Because that's the only way that it's going to be successful. So that's the first thing I do is email and a calendar invite, and if I don't hear from them, I put them on the drip campaign. So I'm going back to my portrait drip campaign example. The first one, again, is an invitation to connect, the first email. But a few weeks later, they're going to get another email that's going to talk about why me? Why should they choose me to photograph the portrait that they want captured? The next email and the one following is not necessarily a sales email. I give them something that has value. For the portrait example, I give 5 tips on how to capture better pictures with your smartphone of your children, right? So now they can go ahead and enjoy that read. So a drip campaign helps you stay on their mind, but you're not haunting them all the time. And also for me, I don't have to think constantly, did I contact that person? How many times did I contact them? Is it too much? Is it too little? What should I do? It flows smoothly. And the one other thing about drip campaign, it really talks about boundaries as well. So it presents my boundaries as a professional giving a service. And basically I do that with the last email that comes out in the drip campaign. And the last email states very clearly on the subject that this is the last time they're going to hear from me. I say last time from me. And I thank them in the email for contacting me, and I say that I understand that for some reason it's not right for them right now to go ahead and move forward with the portrait, but please contact me when they are ready. So that way they know that I'm not going to contact them again, and they know that the ball is in their court and they need to go ahead and reach out to me. So it creates a little bit of respect as well on both sides. I'm respecting them and they're respecting me. Communicates respect, definitely. And I'll give you a perfect example of how this works. So I have drip campaigns for every single one of my services. I have one for weddings, I have one for portraits, I have one for high school seniors. It applies for each single service. There is a drip campaign that actually is relevant to that service. I just received an email this morning from a wedding client that received my last email from my wedding drip campaign and the last one for me. So she wrote me back and she said, hey, I just want you to know I am still definitely interested. I just can't talk right now, but I will be in touch. And I wrote her back and I said, great, be in touch whenever you're ready. So clear communication. Oh, and she asked to be placed on my newsletter so she can keep receiving newsletters from me. So that's great. I didn't hunt them down. It wasn't a texting mess. The reason, by the way, I don't want you to text and I don't text is because, again, photography is a very personal service. They need a client, a potential client needs to connect with you on a personal level. How are you going to do that? Through text? I mean, I don't see it working. So that's tip number 9. Works great for me to communicate with my potential clients. Create a drip campaign. And we are moving to the last tip of the day. Yay! Tip number 10. Say thank you. We give a service. We provide a product. We're the ones who are working here, right? So sometimes we forget we need to say thank you. But to me, the fact that a client chose me over many other photographers, the fact that a client is trusting me with capturing some of the most important moments in their lives, it doesn't go without me noticing that. That is really important to me and means a lot to me. So I love saying thank you to my clients. And this is something that really has to come from the heart. You really have to feel it. Because if you're going to fake a thank you, they're going to know. But what I love to do is I send handwritten thank you cards. The reason I do that is because when's the last time you got something in the mail that was actually handwritten and was something that made you smile? It was not a bill, right? So I send thank you card. I send a thank you card for considering my services, thank you card for using my services. I also send happy birthday cards. I send happy anniversary cards. I keep being very, very grateful to the clients because I know that thanks to them, I can keep the lights on and I can pay my rent doing what I love to do. And that is huge, huge, and I am so appreciative of it. So say thank you. Communicate how grateful you are to the fact that they're allowing you to provide this service. So this was tip number 10, and I hope that you can at least get one thing out of this whole webinar. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any comments, any questions, anything that you want. I'm sure that my contact information is down here somewhere on the bottom of the screen. I'm sure it's somewhere here. So feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you think about this webinar. I want to say thank you for taking the time and being here today. And as a thank you, I want to offer you a couple special offers. One of them is the book I mentioned earlier. So yes, I wrote a book. It's called What's Wrong with My Camera, and it has the basics of photography. So if you are a self-taught photographer, if you kind of just picked up a camera and started working and said, hey, this is great, I'm just going to make a living off of it, this takes you back to the basics and breaks the basics down in a very, very clear way and can be very useful in terms of strengthening your foundation. So I am going to offer you $5 off as a thank you for watching this webinar, and go ahead and email me with your contact information. Say that you want to purchase the book, and I'll give you the $5 off coupon code and the link to where to buy the book. So that's the book. The other thing that I want to offer today is a thank you for listening to me. I was talking about the e-form, the online form that I created for all my clients. So it's basically a questionnaire and a shot list that I email to all my clients before any session, and they go ahead and fill it out. Remember, I talked about it before. I said it has 1 million questions on it, maybe not 1 million, right? Remember that. So I'm going to go ahead and offer this bundle of the e-forms that I created. I have one for weddings, one for portraits, one for business. If you're interested, again, go ahead and email me. Let me know that you want to purchase the e-form bundles, and I will get back to you with details and information. So this is my thank you to you for for watching this webinar, and I do appreciate your time. Last but not least, whenever I speak in person and I go into the Q&A at the end of the talk, without fail, every single time the question comes up at one point of the Q&A, so what's the deal with the dog? And it happens so often that I actually created a slide at the end of every single one of my presentations that says, so what's the deal with the dog? So the dog, I'm referring to my logo, obviously, and the deal with the dog. So the dog logo does have a story behind it, and it is a very important story, absolutely. And I tell the story of my logo to people who meet with me one-on-one. So, and basically anyone who meets with me one-on-one and does ask to hear the story, at the end of it, they're sworn to secrecy, and they can't tell anybody else that asks them what's the deal with the dog. So, and it's been working for the past 8 years or so. So really, really fun. So if you really want to know what's the deal with the dog, set up a one-on-one with me, and I'll tell you what's the deal with the dog. It's great to have you. Thank you so much, and go out there and have great communication with your clients. Awesome photographers.